River Yeo, and this is Hosanna Yeo, and today I'm going to talk to you about AIP versus GAPS. So my story is that I found AIP first, which if you don't know stands for Autoimmune Protocol, and I got all the lists of all the foods that can cause some reaction in people with autoimmune problems and tried to cut them out of my diet. Things like nightshades, such as tomatoes, peppers, and dairy, and a lot of things. So I found that to be kind of helpful. At first, I didn't really notice the difference. It was pretty gradual. But then mostly I noticed that I spent every living moment in the kitchen, and every time I would finish preparing a meal, I would feel hungry. I mean, after I would finish a meal, I would feel hungry, and then I would cook another meal, and then I would eat that, and then I would still feel hungry. And I was like, nothing that I'm eating is satisfying me. I don't know what to do. Just eat rice and avocados every day. But it was rough. So, besides that, I did notice I had a little bit more clarity mentally. At the time, I was working as a nurse, giving meds, and I remember having to triple check myself more than usual because I was more than the usual person would because I was so exhausted all the time. It was a long-term care facility. And I noticed that when I would triple check myself, I would find less mistakes of my own as I was going through the long list of meds. But anyway, one day, I think my mom packed me a lunch, which was so nice of her, and it had peppers and sausage. It was like a peppers and sausage dinner left over that I was like, I'll just eat it. I mean, I don't know if this is making a difference anyway. And sure enough, I felt like I took a Benadryl and I just got knocked out. I was like, whoa, I feel so tired. So I was like, wow, this is definitely different than how I felt before I ate this. So because it had happened so gradually, I didn't notice the difference. But yeah, so I took away those things and then I started to feel a bit better. But then I found myself being more and more sensitive to other things. So then I would take those things out. And then I would feel better. And then I would find I'm starting to feel sensitive to another thing. Eggs was one thing that all of a sudden I was never sensitive to before. But because I was so hungry all the time, I would just add an egg to every meal I would eat. I was eating so many eggs. And all of a sudden I became sensitive to them. I had reactions that were not good. So, can you tell we're in our PJs right now? It's not daytime. The lights are on. But anyway, so that was kind of discouraging because I just felt so exhausted and so hungry. And I did find some things that I was sensitive to and was able to have the skill of listening to my body a little bit more. So that was good, but ultimately it didn't really do the trick for me. Later, I found GAPS, and I found that to be so much easier because I started from GAPS Intro. You can start from full GAPS, which is a long list of foods, or GAPS Intro. And instead of feeling hungry all the time, even though I would eat a lot, I would eat a lot of the same thing. And it was really satisfying. Having all of those rich meat stocks every day was really satisfying, and I could have as much as I wanted. And I didn't have to make a whole nother meal. I could just heat up another cup of broth because I made a huge pot of it. And so I could just keep eating that whole pot of soup until kingdom comes. So I found it to be a lot easier. And I found that I did not become sensitive to more and more foods because my gut lining was being healed slowly. Excuse you. Over time. I was feeling less gassy, right, baby? And yeah, I kind of had a big crash, which was different. In AIP, I slowly kind of felt a bit better, but it was sort of ambiguous. With GAPS, I I did take some of the knowledge that I had from AIP, and then I avoided some of those things that I noticed really affected me, like nightshades. And I gradually introduced the egg yolks like they recommend in the book, and that seemed to work for me. Yeah, but anyway, when I was on GAPS, I just went full force because I felt so bad and I just wanted to feel better already. And I was gonna start in the new year, but I decided I can't even wait for the new year. I'm just gonna do it right now. I think it was in like around Thanksgiving time. I was like, forget New Year's. I'm just starting now because I feel terrible and I just need to start something. So at that time, I was doing a driving job where I would drive around and visit people in their homes and do nursing visits. So I would just have a cup of soup in my car all the time, and as I was driving, I would just sip on it all day. I would just sip on that soup. And if I ran out, I would swing back by my house to pick up some more soup and then go back out to the next house, wherever that was. So that's what I did, and I didn't feel hungry because I was really busy. I was working a lot, and because I only had to eat one thing and didn't have to think about it, and because it was really nourishing. There were a lot of healthy fats. Like, I didn't realize that if you cut all the carbs out of your diet, or many of the carbs out of your diet, you need to replace those calories with fats. So health is not about calories, but you need some kind of nourishment. Is the hat falling over your head? Oop, here you go. So, yes, I like to describe GAPS as like the basic stuff. And a lot of things like AIP or certain food sensitivities like nightshades and FODMAP or that kind of thing maybe could be beneficial as like a secondary consideration, but like the foundation has to be those nourishing foods that GAPS emphasizes. I'm so sleepy. It's all about what you're adding and not what you're taking away. So by focusing on what you're adding in, probiotic veggies and probiotic homemade yogurt and meat stock and healthy animal fats, healthy salt, by focusing on those things, I was able to heal my gut. And I made that process, you could make that process a little bit easier if you knew a thing or two about certain foods you happen to be sensitive to right now. Yeah, but Dr. Natasha describes how if your gut is full of holes, and then whatever you eat, you're going to become sensitive to. So even if you cut one particular thing out, like I was sensitive to eggs, so I cut it out. But then I became sensitive to nightshades, and then I cut that out. And then I became sensitive to, I don't remember, but the next thing. And you can be doing that forever and just take away more and more food until you have nothing left to eat. So the goal of GAPS is to heal that leaky gut so that when your gut lining is sealed back up together the way it should be, that you can start tolerating these foods again, and because you're digesting them properly. They're not just leaking straight into your bloodstream undigested, which is basically what is happening when the glomulin between your cells is all broken up or missing or weak. And yeah, so how are we gonna fix that? We're gonna drink some really nourishing collagenous meat stock. So that was my experience and how I like to describe AIP versus GAPS, since that's personally something that I went through and really worked hard at. I bought a book, I bought a course, I read all the materials, and was really strict with myself and only ate AIP friendly foods. And in the end, what worked for me was to do GAPS, and yeah, AIP was nice to know, but not like the foundation of what helped me get better. So that's my story. Have you tried AIP? Have you tried GAPS? What was your experience? Leave a comment down below. If you like talking about GAPS and healing with food, then subscribe. Good night.